He was just 2 years old, wearing cowboy boots 3 sizes too big, and a camouflage jacket that nearly swallowed him whole. His name was DeOrr Kunz Jr., and on July 10th, 2015, in the remote Idaho wilderness, he vanished without a sound. No footprints, no scent, no sign he was ever there. You're watching Whims and Whispers, where the quiet becomes unsettling and the shadows never tell the full story. If haunting mysteries pull you in, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and share this story with someone who still listens to the dark. Now, let's begin. It started like any other summer trip. Thursday, July 9th, 2015. Jessica Mitchell and Vernal DeOrr Kunz Sr., young parents from Idaho Falls, decided to take a spontaneous camping trip to the mountains with their little boy. With them were Jessica's grandfather, Robert Bob Walton, a retired veteran in his 70s, and Isaac Reinwand, a quiet friend of the grandfather's whom they barely knew. They packed the essentials: snacks, blankets, fishing gear, and most importantly, DeOrr's favorite things: his sippy cup, his stuffed monkey, his tiny cowboy boots. They headed deep into the Salmon Chalice National Forest toward a place called Timber Creek Campground, a stretch of wilderness so remote, there's no cell service, no nearby cabins, no one for miles. When they arrived, the air was thin and sharp. The trees seemed to close in on all sides, the creek whispering just beyond the campsite. It should have been peaceful. It should have been safe. The morning passed in quiet routine, unloading coolers, setting up chairs, laughter carried by wind. But somewhere between the sound of rushing water and the crackle of a fire pit, the line between safety and tragedy disappeared. Friday, July 10th. Around 1 p.m., Jessica and Vernal decided to walk down to the creek. They said they left DeOrr with Grandpa Bob, sitting in his folding chair beside the truck, only a few feet away. 10, maybe 15 minutes. That's all. When they returned, he was gone. No one heard him cry. No one saw him wander. The forest, it seemed, had swallowed him whole. This is where the mystery begins. Panic hit instantly. Jessica and Vernal tore through the campsite, calling his name, checking behind rocks, under trees, even inside the trailer. No answer, no footprints, no rustle in the bushes. The creek rushed quietly nearby, indifferent. They ran toward it, shouting his name until their voices broke. But the only reply was the wind. At 2:35 p.m., they called 911. But Timber Creek was deep wilderness. No signal, no quick rescue. It took hours before deputies could even reach them. By the time search teams arrived, daylight was slipping away. And so was any trace of DeOrr. The search exploded overnight. Helicopters circled the mountains. ATVs combed the dirt roads. Volunteers, forest rangers, and scent-tracking dogs swept every inch of the area. They found nothing, no clothing, no tracks, not even a scent trail. Bloodhounds were flown in from across the country. Cadaver dogs searched the creek, the boulder fields, the campsite itself. Still, nothing. One sheriff later said, "It was like the earth opened up and swallowed him." For the next 3 days, hundreds of people scoured the mountain. They drained parts of the creek. They searched from the air using heat-sensing drones. And yet, it was as though DeOrr had never existed in that space at all. Theories started forming right away. Did he wander off? Was he taken by an animal? Or had someone done this on purpose? But there was one thing everyone agreed on. A 2-year-old doesn't just disappear into thin air. As search teams packed up at dusk on the 3rd day, the forest fell silent again. its shadows long, its secrets unbroken. And that's when the questions turned toward the people who were supposed to be watching him. At first, investigators believed it was a tragic accident. A child wanders, a moment of distraction. The wilderness takes what it wants. But soon, the story started to change. Jessica and Vernal's statements didn't line up. What time did they arrive? Who saw DeOrr last? How long were they gone? Every answer seemed to shift, like the forest itself was twisting their words. In one version, DeOrr was left with Grandpa Bob. In another, Vernal said he was getting fishing gear from the truck, and the boy was just a few feet away. Then Jessica said they were all near the creek together when he vanished. 3 stories, 1 missing child. Both parents agreed to take polygraph tests. They failed, twice. After that, they stopped cooperating with police. Sheriff Lynn Bowerman went public saying, "They know more than they're telling us." Suspicion spread quickly. The case turned from rescue to possible foul play. Investigators started looking at Isaac Reinwand, the quiet friend who barely knew the family. He seemed nervous in interviews, often claiming he didn't remember what happened that day. Some described him as strange, withdrawn. Still, police couldn't link him to anything. Then there was Grandpa Bob, the last person said to have seen DeOrr alive. He insisted he thought the boy was with his parents. Could a 70-year-old man have simply looked away? Or was he covering for something or someone? Weeks turned into months. Private investigator Philip Klein was hired by the family to find answers. But instead, he uncovered more contradictions. Every timeline, every retelling, conflicted. He later claimed he had reason to believe DeOrr was never at the campground at all. When Klein was fired, he turned on the parents, calling it a cover-up wrapped in tragedy. Years later, a breakthrough seemed close. In 2019, cadaver dogs alerted near the original campsite, just a few hundred yards from where DeOrr was last seen. The area was dug, scanned, tested, and again, nothing. No bones, no clothing, no trace of a child who should have been right there. 4 adults, 1 missing toddler, and not a single story that fits. The deeper investigators searched, the stranger it became. Because in every direction they turned, the truth seemed to vanish, just like DeOrr. Nearly a decade later, there's still no trace of DeOrr Kunz Jr., only theories, each one darker and more desperate than the last. The simplest idea, he wandered off, lost to the elements. Maybe he slipped into the creek or hid in the brush. But after hundreds of searchers, aerial scans, dogs and divers, nothing. No clothing, no bones, no trail. Even the most seasoned trackers were baffled. It's not just rare, it's impossible. Theory 2, the animal attack. Could a mountain lion or bear have taken him? Experts say no. There'd be blood, drag marks, torn fabric. And the parents were just feet away. No growl, no scream, no sign of struggle. Theory 3, the stranger abduction. A phantom in the forest. A kidnapper who appeared and vanished within minutes. But the campground was empty. No vehicles, no witnesses. For that theory to work, someone would have needed perfect timing and inhuman silence. Theory 4, the cover-up, the one that won't fade. What if DeOrr never made it to the mountains at all? What if something happened before the trip? An accident, a moment of panic, and the camping story was a lie. Failed polygraphs, missing comfort items, and no proof, none that DeOrr was ever at Timber Creek. Even the private investigator said, "I don't believe that child was at that campground." Theory 5, accident and panic. Maybe it wasn't premeditated. Maybe something went wrong at the campsite. A fall, a drowning, and fear took over. Instead of calling for help, someone hid what happened. The delay in 911 calls, the secrecy, the silence, all seem to fit. No proof, but it explains the emptiness. Theory 6, the paranormal. And then, there are those who whisper about something older than any map. They call Timber Creek a place that takes. Compasses spin. Fog clings to branches. Some say there are watchers in the trees, beings that lure and never give back. It sounds impossible until you realize every logical theory has already failed. Maybe the forest didn't hide him. Maybe it kept him. The case became more than a mystery. It became a mirror. A reflection of how we search for truth when reason runs out. Families still light candles for DeOrr. His name appears on missing child posters, but the world has grown quieter. The forest, though, remains the same. And for those who've stood among those trees, one feeling lingers, that something is still out there. Watching, waiting, listening to every whisper of his name. A mistake someone couldn't face? Or something far stranger, something the forest took and never returned? Almost 10 years have passed, and still no footprints, no bones, no trace. Just timelines that don't align, stories that change with every telling, and a silence that feels deliberate. Sheriff Lynn Bowerman once said, "We've searched every inch of that mountain. He's not there. But if he's not there, where is he?" Maybe someone knows. Maybe the truth is buried under fear, guilt, or dirt. Or maybe, just maybe, the forest keeps its own. This is Whims and Whispers. If tonight's story stayed with you, share it with someone who still listens to the dark. Tap subscribe so you don't miss the next voice that speaks from the stillness. And tell us what you believed. Did someone take DeOrr? Or did the forest take him somewhere we can't follow? Because some say the truth is still out there, waiting in the silence, where silence speaks and shadows remember.